Okay, picture this. You're standing at the base of a massive sheer rock face, looking up a staggering 300 feet into the sky. And way up there, carved directly into the solid rock, is a message so enormous, yet so completely inaccessible, that almost nobody on the ground could even read it. It was built for eternity. Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking the Behistun Inscription. It's this ancient marvel that literally changed our understanding of human history. But it also hides a deeply unsettling mystery right in plain sight.
So, here's a thought experiment for you. This monument is constantly celebrated as the Rosetta Stone of cuneiform, right? Like the absolute key that unlocked forgotten civilizations. But what if it isn't just history? What if we're actually looking at the world's oldest, most enduring piece of political propaganda? We really have to ask ourselves, are we looking at a factual record or a masterfully crafted lie carved straight into a mountain?
All right, let's dive into this. To truly grasp what's at stake here, we got to rewind about 2.5 millennia. 2,500 years ago, the Persian Empire wasn't just big, it was the undisputed greatest power on Earth. We're talking borders stretching all the way from Egypt across to Central Asia. It ruled over millions of people, dozens of different languages. It was a logistical and military behemoth, totally unlike anything the world had ever seen up to that point.
But as with all massive empires, the succession of power is exactly where things get, well, incredibly messy. Cyrus the Great founded this unprecedented superpower. Then his son, Cambyses II, took over and actually swallowed up Egypt. But then, on his way back home, Cambyses died under, let's just say, highly suspicious circumstances. Was it an accident? Suicide? Even ancient writers couldn't agree, and honestly, no one knows for sure. But almost overnight, the empire was staring down a massive power vacuum, plunging everything into chaos.
Enter Bardiya. Now, what's really fascinating about this specific transition is how incredibly smoothly it supposedly went at first. Word spreads across the empire that Cambyses' brother Bardiya had taken the throne. And for most folks, the transition was totally peaceful. Actually, it was super popular. This new king slashed taxes, he eased up on military drafts. By all accounts, the people were genuinely thrilled with their new ruler.
Well, almost everyone. One prominent Persian noble strongly disagreed with this whole situation, and his name was Darius. Darius steps up and insists very loudly that the guy sitting on the throne is absolutely not Bardiya. According to him, the real prince, the actual Bardiya, had been secretly murdered. So who was this new king? Darius claimed he was a dangerous fraud, an impostor, specifically a Magian priest named Cambyses who was just playing dress-up as royalty. He basically accused this guy of conning an entire empire.
Which brings us to the wild story Darius told to justify what he did next. I mean, it literally sounds like the plot of a Hollywood heist movie. Step 1, Darius and his inner circle uncover the massive fraud. Step 2, Darius and exactly 7 loyal nobles infiltrate the heavily guarded royal fortress. Step 3, they take down the impostor and save Persia from total ruin. It's the perfect heroic narrative, right? Honestly, maybe a little too perfect. Because we have to remember one tiny detail. Basically, everything we know about this spectacular rescue comes from exactly one source, Darius himself.
So here's the crucial detail. The second Darius actually claimed that throne for himself. 9 major rebellions erupted across nearly every corner of his empire. And that was just in a single year. It was absolute, unmitigated chaos. The sheer scale of this resistance was staggering. Elam revolted, Babylon revolted, Media revolted, Egypt pushed back. The entire empire was practically tearing itself apart. Now, Darius's explanation for all this was suspiciously consistent. He claimed that every single one of these rebel leaders was just another liar, another impostor pretending to be a rightful king. And with ruthless efficiency, he systematically crushed them. One by one, every uprising was totally dismantled.
And Darius decided to commemorate those bloody victories in stone, high up on the Behistun cliff. He depicts each defeated rebel standing bound, right in front of a giant victorious version of himself. But the kicker? He explicitly includes Ahura Mazda, the supreme deity, actively blessing his rule. The political messaging is crystal clear here. The gods have chosen Darius. Therefore, if you oppose him, you're not just a political rebel, you are literally opposing the divine order of the universe.
I mean, it's brilliant messaging, but it brings us to a really uncomfortable question for historians, the real elephant in the room. Where is the independent evidence? Outside of Darius's own elaborate carvings, there's virtually nothing. No surviving Persian document confirms that this impostor Gaumata ever even existed before Darius started talking about him. Zero independent witnesses. Even the Greek historian Herodotus, who wrote about this whole saga decades later, was relying heavily on Persian traditions that had probably already been shaped by Darius's official PR machine.
This glaring lack of evidence forces us to look at a pretty chilling comparison. On one side, we have Darius's official story. He's the ultimate savior, restoring the rightful dynasty from this wicked Magian fraud. But then, on the other side, we have the modern historian's theory. What if Bardiya really was the legitimate son of Cyrus? What if he genuinely, rightfully became king after his brother Cambyses died? If that's the truth, then Darius wasn't saving the empire at all. He was murdering the rightful heir and orchestrating a violent, bloody coup.
If those historians are right, then the Behistun Inscription completely transforms. It's not a historical confession anymore. It's certainly not a textbook. It becomes an absolute masterclass in narrative manipulation. It's a carefully crafted justification for a hostile takeaway. Darius desperately needed the empire to believe his violence was righteous, so he literally carved his alibi into a mountain.
And you have to give him credit for how brilliantly he executed the plan. He didn't just carve it hundreds of feet up where nobody could deface it. He made absolutely sure everyone got the memo. The inscription was hammered out in 3 different languages: Old Persian, Elamite, and Babylonian. He guaranteed that officials across this wildly diverse empire would read the exact same message. He completely centralized the narrative. From that moment on, every rebellion was treason, every victory was justice, and every enemy, well, they were just a liar.
Which leads to this grand, beautiful, historical irony. This massive monument, explicitly designed to preserve one king's highly suspicious and probably fabricated version of history, eventually became known as the Rosetta Stone of cuneiform. Because it was written in those 3 distinct languages, centuries later, modern scholars used it to decipher cuneiform itself. Darius's giant billboard of political spin is literally the exact thing that allowed us to unlock thousands of forgotten records from ancient Mesopotamia. Its historical value to us today is absolutely immeasurable, even if its original purpose was deeply, deeply self-serving.
Which brings us to one final thought to wrap up this explainer. Darius understood a fundamental truth about leadership. Winning power is really only half the battle. Winning the story is even more important. Today, if you visit that cliff, he's still up there, standing triumphantly over his enemies. We know for a fact he won the throne, but the real mystery, the one that should keep us questioning absolutely everything we read, is whether he also managed to conquer history itself. Because as the Behistun Inscription shows us, history is usually written by the victors. And sometimes, the stone remembers only one side of the story.